later.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and record. Well, welcome everybody that are here to the. I think this is our third painting demonstration. We've done. The first one was a field in England, a field in Tetbury, England. Then we did the Walla Walla wheat fields, and today we're going to do painting of the Tahoe, Truckee Tahoe. This is kind of it's called the Gate Pavilion. There's a little park here where they had a dam that dammed the river going into Lake Tahoe or leaving Lake Tahoe, and this was the gatekeeper's house. In this photograph, it's the house with the kind of bluish gray roof in the background. That was, I think, the original gatekeeper. You can see it a little better in this photograph. So Randall and Diane, Karen and myself, we were up at Tahoe on last Friday, so almost a week ago. And we, Randall took this photograph and I took this one. And I'm gonna use both of them because I thought Randall's trees were a better composition. I'll tell you why in just a minute. And I thought my cottage in the back and my path in the front were maybe a little more interesting in here. So we're gonna use parts of both of them. And I'm kind of excited because Randall and I took an art field trip today and we went down to University Art Supplies right by Sutter's Fort, downtown Old Sacramento. And I got myself an Arches watercolor block. This is, I think, the best kind of watercolor paper in the world, Arches. And if you can see way down here, it says, founded in France in 1492. So Arches has been around a long time. And I'm gonna open it here with you guys so you can see the watercolor block. I'll hold it up here so you can see it in this screen. This is.
So are you using the hot press or cold pressed?
I am using cold press. Hot press is difficult to paint on. Just a little review as I'm opening this, or I should ask you, do you guys know the difference between cold press, hot press, and rough press?
Well, the whole press has more texture to it than my hot press paper does.
Yes.
Hot press is very smooth.
Hot press. I see Luann is coming in, so we're going to welcome Luann. Luann, can you hear us?
No, she's just connecting.
Okay, well, we'll keep going here. So, Gwen, you're right. I think you said hot press, cold press is a rougher texture than hot press, and cold press is a rougher texture. The roughest is the one called rough, and then there's cold press in the middle, and hot press is very smooth. And you don't find this as often, but I bought a. This is a 300 pound, you can see here.
Yeah.
300 pound, which is the heaviest paper. And because this is the really heavy paper, is this black paper?
Oh,
no.
Uh-oh. That'll be neat.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not.
They just have that black paper on the top of the.
It has the black paper on the top. I was going to say it was an expensive mistake. Anyway, so I'll take the black paper off. And again, have all of you used, hi, Luann, this is, can you hear us? You're muted.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm getting some feedback somewhere.
Yeah, my feedback is pretty bad. So if you need to mute yours to make it better, that's fine. Just unmute whenever you want to ask us something. But Luann, welcome to our class. And we have on the screen also, you can see, of course, I've got the one above that shows the, I'm going to be showing where I'm painting. There's a black sheet there right now. I'm opening a new watercolor block. And then below me there, I don't know where it is on your screen, but we have Gwen Acampo. Do you go by Gwen Matthews or Gwen Acampo, or anyway?
Either one is fine.
Okay, Ocampo. I said Acampo. Gwen and I, we know each other from way back a while ago, and she's here to paint with us. She's painted times with us. And then we have over here, am I drawing a blank? Carol, no.
Carol.
I said Cheryl. Carol is from Canada, and she is she's been with us several times. Hello, of course, we just met Luann. And my cousin's husband, Randall Scheidemann, is over here. He could probably stick his head in. There he is from the side. He's over here on the side with us. Anyway, so I'm just opening this watercolor block. If you've never used, how many of you have used a block of watercolor paper before? Do you know how they work?
Yes.
Carol has, Luann has. Okay, you all have. So I'm wasting time then, but no.
No, they're quite nice.
But it's exciting to get a new block for me because I like watercolor blocks. I usually paint on just single sheets of paper, 300-pound cold press. But when I'm teaching classes, when I travel, I usually take a watercolor block along because it's, you know, you don't need to tape it down to anything, attach it to a board, it's all ready to go. And it's good for travel. You don't have to bend your paper in your suitcase. All right, we're going to start today with these two photographs as our basis, and I'm going to talk through a little bit about the composition, why we choose to do what we're doing. And I know all of you have painted watercolor before, and you've done. I haven't seen Luann your anything before, but I did notice that you seem to be in a studio. Do you paint? Is that kind of your work?
No, I'm retired and finally can do the watercolor. I've dabbled since high school and college, but never had the time to pursue it. So I'm enjoying it.
Well, we're glad you're here with us, and we hope that we can help you with some things that you maybe haven't tried before, give you additional practice and things you haven't. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to enlarge the place now where I'm drawing from, and so you'll be able to see that larger. Okay. Everybody see that big now on your screen?
Yes.
All right, we're going to compose this use what this is a portrait mode, not landscape mode. And I like it for this particular composition because it's tall trees and it just looks nice this way. I think it's a good composition. And as I've said earlier in other paintings we've done, that when you're doing a landscape, you generally have about 1/3 of the paper is going to be your foreground, or 1/3 of your composition is going to be your sky, and then the rest is middle ground. This one I'm going to choose to make the foreground the 1/3. So the bottom bottom 1/3 about is going to be the ground of the forest, and where the trees are kind of in this area, maybe a little bit higher, sort of in this area. And then we're going to have the trees in this area here. And I'm going to take from this particular one, I like the way the trees are arranged in this photograph. I've talked about the Goldilocks principle before. Well, this illustrates it very well. We have 3 trees, and these 3 trees, we have a large, a medium, and a small. And these are going to be the primary trees we're going to see in the painting, but of course there's going to be other trees along the sides. They're going to be smaller and make it the forest. But these follow the principle of small, medium, and large, the Goldilocks principle, as some people say. Now, if you look at this in comparison, those 3 trees aren't nearly as prominent. In this composition, it looks mainly like two trees. It's not, I don't think it's as interesting as the 3. So we're going to use this to get our trees in. Okay, so I have already drawn my horizon line, and I'm going to put the trees in now. At any point, if you feel that I'm going too quickly, let me know, because I don't want to leave anybody in the dust. I want to be able to see you all, though. So can you individually make your the screen that has the drawing on it larger, or do I have to do that for my screen?
I can see your large drawing very well, but I don't know.
Well, I'm going to leave it like this then, because I want to be able to see you guys in case you're trying to say something or, you know, whatever. I like to, because I can look at my own drawing here. I don't need it on the screen there. All right, so I've put the horizon line about there, and now I'm going to put, when I have something like this where the center of the picture in the photograph, as you can see here, the center has the main subject. This is the main subject, but the secondary subjects are these three trees, and sort of the fourth area or third area of interest is the pathway coming up here. This pathway. This is, so those are all important. And they all kind of work together. The path leads us to the house, and the trees frame the house or the cabin. So that's when I have that, and this is something that sometimes I don't think about that others might wonder how to do this, is how do you decide what to draw next? Well, I always draw my horizon line first, and then the next important part is the house. Where's the house going to go? So I have to think, am I going to put it right in the center? Am I going to put it a little to the left or a little to the right? In this case, I've decided to put it a little bit to the left because the path is going to come up here from the right, and I want it to lead in, and it would be too heavy on this side. If I had it over here and it's leading in kind of like this, I think it looks a little nicer composition to put it right about here and have the path lead this way. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of measure out where I want the parameters of these two framing trees to be. So I want these trees, and I see that I want it a little bit more like this. So I can grab my eraser. I'm going to just, I made those marks there, and I'm going to erase the two that were in there, sort of a little too far. And this is going to be the edges of my trees right here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to put first the big tree here. Now notice neither the tree nor the cabin nor the path are in the center of the painting, but they lead us towards the center area of the painting. So it makes it more interesting. Did my camera just go off? I think I need to plug in my battery here. Just 1 second. I hope this doesn't knock things off. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. All right. So this is going to be the edge of this tree, and I'm going to put I've established the width of, and even as I'm looking at it, I see that I want this a little bit wider. So I'm going to put this a little bit more over here. So this is going to be, this space right here is where the cabin is going to fit inside of this space. And this is going to be the edge of the tree. And let's look again at the composition. So this space is this right here. Where I outline here, this is here. And this is the edge of this tree. Okay? So we're going to put that tree in first. And one of the things that I've talked about because Randall and I actually sketched this yesterday, and we talked a lot about composition. But I'm starting over again because I just wanted to do it for you guys so you can see it. So when you're drawing trees like this, you don't want all the trees to be exactly perpendicular to the horizon line. Positionally, it's much more interesting if your trees lean slightly, at least some of them lean slightly. Now, which direction do you think I would say they need to lean slightly? Towards the inside of the painting or the outside?
It feels like they should lean towards the left, but I don't know why I feel that way.
Towards the left, all of them towards the left, or?
Well, I usually like to mix it up, right?
Yeah. Okay, anyone else have an idea on that? Remember, the teacher doesn't know everything, but I do have opinions.
It seems like it's going to lean toward the center to complete that, where it lead the eye back in.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm thinking. You're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. So I'm going to make the trees, but you can't do it too much, otherwise it's going to look comical or animated if you put too much lean on anything. But if anything, you certainly don't want them to lean out of the painting, because if you lean out of the painting, it's going to lead the eye, it's going to look awkward. All right, so but the first tree, the primary tree, I want that to be almost as perpendicular as possible. So I'm gonna just sketch this tree going pretty much straight up. But if you look at this tree, you notice that the lines themselves, edges of the tree are closer together here than here, correct? Can you see that? because the tree gets thinner to the top. So I'm going to ever so slightly have this flare out at the bottom. And this line here is going to also, this side of the tree is going to get a little farther apart down here. And even as I sketched that, I realized I didn't make that quite thick enough. That's about the thickness I want my medium-sized tree to be. So never feel bad about erasing things. An eraser is a tool just like a pencil or a brush. You sometimes have to erase. So I'm going to thicken this out about like this. I want this tree to be heftier and the biggest tree in the picture. Okay, so that's probably about right there. It's a little hard to see. Can you see it? I don't want it to be too dark on the picture because I don't want to have too much to cover up the picture. All right, so also you can't see much in this of the bottom of the tree, but look at the bottom of this tree. It'll give you a clue how you need to make this. So the bottom of the pine trees, remember back in the days when there were bell-bottom pants and flared pants and straight leg? Well, this is going to be flared, not bell-bottom. And it's not going to be straight-legged. It's going to be just slightly flared at the bottom. Does that make sense? Because it does get wider, but you don't want it to go out like this. Then you have what looks like a cypress tree down in the swamps of Georgia and Florida and all that. But that's not what you have here. All right, so we're going to have this go a little bit like kind of like this, but not. It's not like the roots of a oak tree. That's not the kind of trees. And besides this one, this does have some greenery in front of it. So I'm going to just indicate, not drawing the whole bush, just indicating that there's some shrubbery here like this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I have to draw out the whole thing. And then I'm going to remember I want my stepping stones and pathway to go through here. And now I want to get my, this is the papa bear. I want to put the mama bear over here on this side. So the mama bear is, this one I'm going to have her lean a little bit more in towards this center of the painting. A little bit, not too much. But I'm not going to have this tree go down as far as this tree does. It's going to stop a little up here. And actually, again, now that I see that, I see this needed to come down just a little bit further because I stopped it too close up to the horizon line. That's part of the trouble when you're demonstrating it. You start talking, you're not looking at what you're doing as much. So I'm going to take this down just a little further here because I don't want any of these three primary trees to stop at the same plane. It'll look awkward if they stop at the same plane down here. They need to stop at different places. Just like in the photograph, notice this. This tree stops down here, this one stops here, this one stops here. Actually, none of these trees end at the same point. They all end at different places. And that's an important part of the composition because that's part of what gives the illusion of distance in your painting. Because closer things are bigger and they're going to look like they're farther down away from the horizon line. Farther away things are going to be farther up, closer to the horizon line, until these trees back here are right on the horizon line. And they're smaller. So it all helps to give the indication of distance and perspective, even though it's not a man-made object, it's just bushes. Okay? So don't make a big deal about drawing these bushes in, and for sure don't make them too heavy with your pencil because you don't want them to be hard to paint over and you don't want the pencil lines to show too much. All right, so this is going to be now this tree. I'm going to bring it down about here. And I'm going to start up here, making sure it's narrower than this is the mama bear tree, so it's a little bit narrower, and it's leaning in a little bit. But not, I don't want to make it sound like I'm really trying to make these leaning over. That's not what I'm saying. Just okay. And then the baby bear tree is going to go right about here, and this one might even lean a little bit more. And I need to make this noticeably smaller than the other one. Okay? All right, do you see that? We have 3 different sizes here now. But this is kind of, in a sense, it's not real good because see how they're kind of leading out of the painting? We need to bring something in here to keep the eye back in the painting. So I'm going to put this little tree over on the side. It's very small, but it's going to come back down and sort of prevent our eyes from escaping out of the painting. So this little tree is going to be, see this tree right here? This is the one I'm talking about right now. All right, and I'm going to put this is going to look more like a Christmas tree. So there's going to be this kind of branching. And it's going to come back. It's going to help you stay in the painting. Now, a word of caution, you don't want to have anything hovering real close to the edge of your composition, because let's just say that I had made only this tree and nothing else there. It would look really bad because it would be like, almost like the tree is trying to sneak out of the painting and it wants to not be there. So anyway, oh, I have somebody else, sorry. I'm gonna enter, we have Lisa joining us. Well, and I didn't see her at first, so let's greet her. Let's pause for just a minute. Hi, Lisa. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you too.
Hello?
Lisa, so let's meet everybody here. Lisa is a veteran painter with me. Lisa and I have painted together for years. Lisa started watercolor painting with me on a trip to Italy and then on a trip to England. And now she's been carrying on her own, and she's really done some amazing things. If you have a chance to look at her paintings online, she does beautiful flowers, and we enjoy painting together. So we used to live in the same town.
Thank
Lisa
you.
is in Modesto or Riverbank, anyway, near Modesto, California. And Lisa, we have also with us Carol. You want to wave at her, Carol? Carol, and then Gwen. And we have a new student today, or a joiner, Luann. So welcome everybody. And then Lisa, you remember your friends from the Orvieto trip, Randall Scheidemann.
Hi, Lisa.
Oh, hello. Hi. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has been.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I got in. Took me a while.
Yeah, so Lisa,
I
Randall, I'm at his house in Roseville, at Diane and Randall. You know, Diane is my cousin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Lisa, you can see we've already done most of the tree sketch part, but you can probably catch up pretty quickly since you've painted before, you know what we're doing. But anyway, Lisa, we've just drawn the primary tree in our photograph. Have you seen the photograph?
Yes, I
From? Okay, so you know, this is the main tree, the Papa Bear, then here's the Mama Bear tree and the Baby Bear. And I don't want to sound silly, but it's just an easy analogy for me to keep straight in people's minds that we have the small, medium, and large. And that's the way I remember it, Goldilocks principle. And so now we're getting ready to we were just talking when you came on about putting this little tree on the side to keep our eye from leaving the painting with these other trees kind of marching out of the painting. We're going to put in some other trees here now. And this tree on the right, we're going to put 2 of these trees over here. We're going to go up with this tree here. That's going to be about the same size, but I'm going to try to make it a little bit smaller than the Baby Bear tree, but it's going to be right in there. And then we're going to have another smaller tree back here. This one we could beef up just a little bit. And then we're going to put some branches going across here. This branch, of course, shouldn't go in front of this tree because this tree is the farther forward. So this branch is sort of going off on the side. There's some branches coming off here. And then we have some other branches. In the photograph, you can see here that there's a lot of stuff in front of there. I'm not going to put really that much because I want the trunk of this tree to just show up more. So we're going to put just a few branches here to indicate that we're going to have some branches coming across here, and maybe one or two from this point, and maybe one off of this tree a little bit here. Some of them like this. So of this, there's some branches coming across here. This, you don't have to be real obsessive about drawing these in. They're just reminders that there's some branches in there. And you could even put one or two more trees going up in here. We're just kind of establishing a forest back here. And now, if you notice the way that these trees, they kind of make this little bit of an arc like this. Can you see this? So that it again, leads our eye towards the center of the painting. Okay, now we're going to quickly draw in the cabin, and I'm going to use my photograph for the cabin. I'm going to do this cabin right here. It's a little hard to see, but you can see, I'll bring it up closer. So I'm going to draw this, but I'm going to simplify this. It's a little hard to see too much detail in that. Feel free to look at your photograph yourself or do it however you want. I'm going to show you one way to draw this cabin in. I don't want to make a big deal about it. So we're going to start it right about here. And I want it to be a little bit tucked behind here. I'm going to make, this is kind of a real A-frame roof. Now, just thinking about perspective, this point on the roof would be lower than this point because this is my closest corner of the building, and so this is going to be where it's the closest corner. Always means that the lines go away from it towards the vanishing points. And I'm not trying to be too heavy on theory here, but sometimes perspective throws people off. Then I'm going to establish the line of the lean-to roof that makes the porch. And I'm going to do the same thing on, so that there we have our little porch. And I'm going to put the floor of the deck that comes out. There's kind of a deck out in front of this. It's going to go a little bit like this. And there's kind of some bushes in front here. And then this edge of the house comes down like this. And then there's some posts on this porch that come like this. There's a railing like this. And then there's some steps here. And I'm going to make this railing here. And bushes here. That's kind of the front of my house, my cabin. And I'm going to put in a couple of windows here. I'm not going to make it as complicated as in the drawing or in the photograph. I'm going to make the door right about here. Another window here. Simplifying it somewhat. And then the eave of the roof comes like this. And then there's a window in the top part here. And if that doesn't feel comfortable to draw for you the way it is there, you don't even have to put this window in. But this is what I'm doing, making it look like that. Okay. Can you all see what I did there?
Yep.
Okay, it's a little hard to, my camera, I think, to get it back like this. There we go. Okay, a little better. Okay, now we're going to continue this roof. It's going to slope downward a little bit because that's what happens if I was to actually get in the photograph. In fact, look at this. If you look at this photograph, you see, compared to the horizon line here, this roof slopes from here at the highest point back towards here. And then it slopes from here up to there. Okay, so we're going to establish that. We're going to bring this corner eave down here a little bit, and we're going to bring that across and slope it slightly up. And the bottom of the cabin is behind these bushes, so we don't even have to show that. And we're going to have this roof, I'm going to have it come right about here, and it's going to come out behind here just a little bit. And then the back corner of this probably should come right about, it's actually behind this tree, so it's not going to show. And I see there's a chimney, I believe. There's kind of a chimney in the center. We can't really see it, but it's behind this tree. So if we want to put a chimney, we could put a chimney on the back of the house. Now, this is one of the harder elements to draw, especially if you can't see it. I'm going to draw it, but feel free not to put it in if it's too complicated. But the chimney would go like this. It's going to be in the center. It's going to have the front edge is going to go down like this. Then it's going to come like this. And then it's going to go like that. Okay? Just a little bit like, and it's going to be in this area in Tahoe, these are going to be stone. I can kind of make it look like stone. All right? Now, I'm not going to be cutesy and have smoke going out of the chimney. I'm just going to leave it the way. Okay. Now, we're going to put the path, and let me show you how I think about the path. I think about the path like this. To come to here and start over here. So I'm going to make my line. This is not something I'm going to paint in, but I'm going to kind of meander it. Like my pencil's getting low. I'm going to kind of meander it around this way, like this. Like that, okay? So I'm going to put these stepping stones, I like them in this picture. I'm going to put these stepping stones in. Now, how do you make stepping stones look like they're laying down in the pathway? Let me show you on another piece of paper what you don't want to do and what you do want to do. Let me get a piece of paper here just a minute. Okay, so on this piece of paper, I'm going to show you, well, here is one we did of the cabin yesterday. We were kind of practicing, Randall and I. That gives you another sense. We put the chimney, in this case, right in the center of the roof. You can do it however you want, wherever there's space for it. And let me show you right here what I would do with the pathway. So here comes the pathway like this. Let's do it. Sorry, let's make it this way so it's like we have here. So the path is coming around like this. You don't want to draw the thing like this, because that way it's going to look, can you see what I did there? It's going to look like it's standing up in the pathway. You're going to want to use, even though these are irregular pieces of stone, you want it to be more like this and like this, so that it looks like it's laying down in the pathway. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a little hard to, because they're irregular shapes, but generally speaking, you want the back part of this to be narrower than the front part, because that's going to make it look like it's laying down on this pathway, not standing up in it. Okay? And as they get farther along the path, they're going to be smaller. And this front ones are going to be quite large. And that's how, with an irregular object like this, you still make it look like it's perspective-wise. It has perspective to it. Okay, so I'm going to put those in my pathway here now. Make a point of making a big one right here in the front, like in the photograph. And I'm going to actually have it going out of the painting. So, do you see how I did that? Just kind of meandering up. And I really like these because they, this is really hard to show you. Because these, I like these because they They help to bring the eye into the painting. Okay? Last thing we're going to draw in is we're going to draw a little bit of the background here. So we're going to have the forest. This is going to be the forest background. There's trees in the background here like this. And they're going to be kind of just across the background here. And then I'm going to have some mountains. And these mountains around Tahoe can be kind of jagged like this. And then
How close to the top of your painting are you with the mountains there, Dan? Can we see the top? Okay, so you've still got quite a bit of sky there.
There's about the top third is sky.
Yeah.
The middle third is my interest area, and the bottom third is the foreground. Okay? All right. Next step is we're going to paint. I'm going to put some color on here. Now, this painting still has all the three elements I've been talking about in landscape. We have sky, which is the background. We have the middle ground, is the cabin, the forest, the mountains, and then we have the foreground, which is the pathway and the bushes in front of the trees here. And these are all things, these parts are generally in a landscape. And I do landscapes. That's what I do, a lot of landscapes. It's my favorite thing to paint. And I know that some people, like Lisa, you like to paint flowers, and Carol, you do quite a bit of flowers as well. And flowers, I've done flower paintings, but to me, a landscape is one of the best things to test a lot of things in the same painting. We get skies, we get usually buildings of some kind, we get vegetation, trees, we get a lot of different kinds of stuff we can paint. Okay, so that's why generally I like when I'm doing just general classes of watercolor skills, I tend to do landscapes. Now, we could do some specialized classes sometimes, and at some point, those of you that have been coming might like to do flowers or something else. I don't do a lot of animals, although I have done animals, and some of you have seen my Christmas cards. Every year I used to do a Christmas card of my three boys doing something Christmassy, kind of funny. Lisa, you've gotten our Christmas cards, I think, and those look like so I did paint my three boys every year, but it's not it's not my strong thing. I had to spend a lot of time doing it. But anyway, we could do some other things, but we're going to be doing landscapes because I think they have a lot of good elements, and sometimes it's a little easier than some of those more detailed subjects. All right, without much more to say, we're going to start painting. And those of you that have painted now a couple times with me, what is the first thing I usually do in a landscape?
The sky.
The sky. We want to start with the sky. A couple of reasons. You always work from lightest to
Darkest.
Watercolor, you can always make it darker, but you can't make it lighter. And the sky is generally the lightest part especially it's got a lot of, if you want any clouds, you're going to leave the white of the paper. So this sky, though, is going to be a little more challenging than some of the other skies we've done. This sky, notice it's broken up by trees in a lot of places. Now, we could paint across all of these trees with our blue, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to have to paint the trees dark to go over the sky. Because you can always paint it lighter, but darker, but you can't paint it lighter. So once the blue is across the trees, I can't get it off. It's there. So I'm going to do what they call spare out. I'm going to spare out the tree area, which in some ways is easier to paint because it's fun. That means I can paint this area here, and then I can paint this area, and then I can paint this area because they're not touching each other. So I don't have to do the whole sky at once. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to paint this. And so what I do is I wet this area down. We're now putting water to paper. Okay, so we're going to put water on this right here. And I'm going to put water down to the tops of the mountains. And I'm going to look at this sideways to see that I've got water on all these areas. And I'm going to just leave it like that. Am I moving too fast? Are you guys ready to do the sky?
Yes. Ready.
I see, I think, Carol, you're not painting, you're just watching today, right? You're
I'll do it later.
Lisa, are
Ready?
you painting?
I'm painting.
Okay, and I think the other, so everyone's painting. Randall's painting. Ready, Randall?
I am ready.
Okay.
Getting there.
Don't want to move too fast.
What blue are you using?
Now, you know that by now. What blue do I usually use?
You use the Prussian?
I usually use Prussian blue, and I'm probably not going to change on that right now. Yes, I use Prussian blue. So my Prussian blue is down here, and I'm going to show you all how I, just for those of you that haven't seen this for a while. So I clean my palette. When I'm painting just for myself, I don't clean my palette every time because I like to use some of the paints that are already there. But just so you can see better what I'm doing. So my Prussian blue is down here in this corner. Put some water on it, work it up a little bit, massage the water onto the paint, and then I put it over here. And that's nice and rich, nice rich color. Get a little more water and make that puddle nice. Okay, and I'm going to paint a nice cloud billowing Sierra sky, because unlike the way it is that you see now, which is lots of smoke in the sky, we have beautiful clouds over the Sierras normally. So I'm going to just paint right now like this. I'm going to just come from the top. I'm going to paint down like this, like there's some beautiful sky here hovering over these mountains. And that's about all I'm going to do really for this first little bit. So there is the middle sky. That's all you have to do. Don't have to make, as Vernon Nye, my great mentor teacher, used to say, you don't have to make a federal case of it. Okay, now I happen to have two glasses of water, and I'm using one to rinse in, and then I'm using another one to get my paint and my clean water from. So I've rinsed my brush. I have my paper towel here. I'm going to clean my brush off so there's no blue in it, get back to some more water here. And now I'm going to put the next biggest piece of paper right here. I'm going to put continuing on with my sky in this part here, wetting down right to the tops of the mountains. And I want to take a little bit of this water up. It's a little too wet. And I'm going to come in with some of that same blue. And I'm going to try to imagine if the sky was continuing on the other side of this tree. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of paint here. Okay. That continues on there. So there's some clouds up there against these mountains. I'm going to put a little bit under here. Come right down to the mountain in this one. Can y'all see what I'm painting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now I'm going to clean my brush on my paper towel, rinse it in my 1 cup, and then I'm going to come up here into my clean water, and I'm going to wet down the rest of this area here. I'm a little bit off the paper, so I'm going to show you can see here what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and wet across this particular tree. Well, I'm going to leave this part here, right down to the mountain. Okay, now I don't know if you've noticed the difference between this part and this part. This one was drier than this one. I put the paint in here. This had already dried. This was still quite wet. I'm not, it's not a problem, but it's just this is drying a little bit darker than this.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay because the tree is going to be in front there, so it'll break it up. But it also notice that the white cloud continued right across here. So I've got to continue this white cloud probably up to here, and I'm going to make the rest of this blue to match what's there. Come back here to my blue puddle, get a little more blue paint, and I'm going to continue on with this up here, just a little bit up there because that's where that blue ended. And then here, there was blue here, so I've got to continue here and come right up through here. And I do want some more cloud down here. So this is going to be going up like this. Just a little bit of a corner of blue right down here. Okay, so it looks connected. They're talking to each other. Each of these sections still is with each other. Okay. Now I'm looking, I can't see the rest of yours, but I can see Randall's. Randall's sky looks good, but he used cobalt, I think, instead of Prussian, which is totally okay. It's just a diction. Yeah, and he said he doesn't have Prussian. So it doesn't matter what color you use, but you do want to remember when you paint the rest of your painting here, you want to bring some of the same colors that were in the sky down into the greens that you make here so that they match. It's a uniform painting. Something else I forgot to tell you that I was deciding to do this painting. I wanted to give you all a different approach than we've done before. The last two paintings we did were what I would call a traditional finish the painting with watercolor, straightforward painting. This one, I intended to just put the main blocks of color in, do this finish with an ink drawing on top of it. So you can see media of ink and watercolor. And it's just to give you a variation so you can see what it looks like. And I happen to love that style. I've done a lot of paintings that I've sold that way. And it's more of an illustrator style. So it just gives you a different approach. But when I do that style, ink drawing, I still do the sky the same way. I don't do the sky differently. Okay, does anybody want to take a risk and show us what your sky looks like? Are you able to hold up your painting so we can see your sky and learn from what you've done so far?
Oh, I can show you mine.
Okay, Gwen, let's see what you got. Okay. I love the way you spared out your trees. Now, I don't see much color in your sky. Maybe the
I've
camera.
got very light blue, so maybe I need to make it more dramatic. I don't know.
Don't need to do anything. It's a choice. It's a matter of choice.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it light and just see how it goes, because sometimes I get too dark.
You know, each of us has kind of a signature. I think I have a signature way I do skies. And so, you know, it's good to see some variation. Luann, it looked like you were going to hold yours up. Let's see what you got. Nice. I see some variation in the blue there, some darker, some lighter. Very nice. Nicely done. I like your trees. I can just begin to see the trees showing some variation there. Okay, Lisa, what you got?
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, nice.
Well, I have border around the edge.
Yeah, that's very different than the rest of ours. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. You got some dark there. Randall, do you want to show us yours at all?
Well, I'll show you mine only to make you guys feel good about artistic talent, because I don't have any.
Okay, Randall's sky is here. It's a little hard to show the whole thing, but
yeah. See, I remember Randall painting like fireworks. Do you remember that?
I have an end of the world blue.
No, but you've got good movement in it. I like the movement to the right. It looks like a dynamic sky.
Well, thank you.
I have to tell you a little story. One day when we made our trip to Italy, Lisa and Randall and I and several others, we sat all day long in the parking area of a gas station in Orvieto, Italy, and painted across looking at a vineyard and an old stone monastery. It was a wonderful day because it was shady the whole day, and we just enjoyed being at that gas station.
That was fun.
Did you know I sold that painting?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. I did not sell mine. No, that painting, I never finished that. So yours, sometime you'll have to show it to us. I'm sure you took a picture of it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to paint now the other side of the Mama Bear and Papa Bear section of the sky. So I'm going to rinse my brush, get this wet over here, and we're going to put this my camera and my paper aren't lined up quite well, so I have to. Okay, so we're going
Move
to
it
wet
around.
down this area. And it's kind of fun doing a painting, sky broken up like this. It gives you a different approach. You can actually do it a little more intentionally. Okay, so I'm going to get this all wet. I'm going to do both sections at once because I think I can manage that. Okay, so there's that last section. Got to get a little more Prussian blue. I'm going to paint this up here. And I think that's about all. I actually want to make this a little bit more like that. Okay. So there you go. That's what I'm doing for my sky. Okay, now what would be the next area we could paint? Anyone have an idea?
Foreground.
We could work on the foreground because we don't want to paint the trees for fear that the trees will bleed into the sky. And we don't want to paint the mountains because they're going to possibly bleed into the sky as well. I don't really want to do the house right now. I want to paint the stuff on the house. So I think a foreground is a good place to start. All right, so we're going to look at the foreground here. And let's ask ourselves some questions about this foreground here. Now in this one, there's a lot of light parts here. This is kind of the lightest part. That's yellowish. I've told you one of the rules of thumb that I work on when I'm working with painting foregrounds is find the lightest color and start with that. And I'm going to start with yellow and just bring it on down into here. And so I'll have areas that can be the sunny areas.
That looks more like a beige or cream than it does yellow to me, but you're seeing it as yellow?
You're right. It isn't exactly yellow. You start with the yellowish. And also, how can I say this? These photographs are not completely true to the color either. It's they're just prints from a photograph, so they're kind of third generation down. It actually looked like there. And
Okay.
I don't want, you're right, Gwen, I don't want to make it too yellow, but I want to start with a yellow wash with some burnt sienna in it so that it's closer to this color. But I want to make sure the main thing is I want to make sure I've left yellowish in there or some light parts so that it's not all dark. You can't get it lighter, but you can get it darker. All right, so I'm going to take and I'm going to mix up over here. Show you what I'm going to mix. I'm going to take my yellow. I have Aurelian yellow, which already is not like a lemon yellow. It's a little bit less than lemon yellow, a little bit more ochreish. And I'm going to take a little bit of ochre and add that to this so that it tones it down so it's not real yellow. And then I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna. I'm going to put just a little bit of burnt sienna in there. So now I have closer to that color you were talking about, Gwen, which I agree. Okay, so this is the color I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to come just through this whole area here. Can you see? I'm doing it till I'm just going to start filling in these areas. And some of this will become grass. Some of it, there's not really grass in this photograph, but
We can't see what you're doing, Dan, with your camera. Let's see if.
Can you see this now? I can see
Yes,
it.
yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm gonna just put it all through this area in here, but I don't want it to be too perfect. I wanna leave some white spaces, and I'm gonna come in there with some of the darker, which is the burnt sienna. And I'm gonna go right over the path too. So this is just kind of bringing this yellow down into here. I'm gonna go across the bottom of the tree here as well. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna avoid painting on the stepping stones, because the stepping stones are, in the picture, they're kind of a bluish gray. So I don't wanna have to put blue on top of this yellow and make the stones look like they're green. I don't want that. Okay, so I'm just coming on through here. Now, right about now, I'm going to come in with some of my burnt sienna. I'm going to start making some burnt sienna down in here. Still being careful to avoid painting across the stepping stones. But this is the sort of the pine needle, what is it called on the ground? Just kind of this stuff here.
Yeah, I wondered how you do the pine needles.
Well, burnt sienna is one of my favorite colors. You know how that works. It just works so well for so much of this. But I'm dipping back into my, I'm dipping back into the yellow there.
And you went to Sienna.
Excuse me? Oh, yes, we went to Sienna.
You went.
We have been there, and I
did, but you did. You took yours.
Yeah, I actually bought some pigment, powdered pigment in Sienna, from Sienna, called Sienna. Burnt sienna, I bought it there. And I keep saying I'm going to make it into some paint, but haven't done it yet. Now, can you see what I'm painting right now? I'm sorry, it's just a little bit okay, so I'm gradually adding this in. Do you see how I'm wanting it to blend? It's wet into wet, but I'm painting on dry paper. But I really want this kind of blending to take place. And as I get down here closer to this end, I'm making it more, I want to get some yellow back in here, because there's still some yellowish parts here, like right up in here. And there's still some yellowish parts across the path. So I want to keep.
It looks like you've put in some orange or something there where it's more brilliant. That's
just heavier burnt sienna.
I see.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys. My approach is to paint realistically, but I always say the artist needs to take in the painting what he likes and emphasize it, make it more intense. And I love this floor. I love the mottled sunlight, the dappled sunlight across the path. I think it's so pretty. And that's part of what I want to show in here is that dappled, beautiful sunlight falling across the path. And Gwen, you're absolutely right. I want to get it darker as I come closer here to the foreground. I just want it's just a device to make the foreground darker. I think it makes it more interesting. So and remember, those of you that have painted with me enough know that I'm not done at all yet. This is not the final approach. This is the underpainting, and I'm gonna put layers of other stuff on top of here. But
when you do that, you know where you're headed? You've got already a picture in your mind or not?
Yeah, I do. I know that I like the way the sun looks across this one.
Yes, I like the dappled look on that too.
Yeah, so that's really what I'm headed for.
But that
I wanna
doesn't
be-
have to be tied into the placement of the trees or anything like that. So,
What was
no
that?
or
Gwen?
yes?
You're saying it doesn't tie into the placement of the trees, or does
Yeah,
it?
does it or does it not?
Not really. I mean, there's so many trees around, and there's so many places that the sun could be falling through that it doesn't have to, you don't have to be able to say, well, that tree there is making that shadow, or, you know, it's a forest. And so you don't have to identify where every piece is going to be coming from.
Okay.
So, and this right here, can you all see where I'm pointing my brush right now?
Yes.
That orange part that Gwen pointed out, I like it there. I'm going to probably leave that darker. I just kind of like the way that composition looks. So I'm happy with the painting so far. The trick on what I'm doing here, and this is something that as you paint, you'll be able to get a better handle on, is I painted this also, it's wet and blending. There's no, it's all blending right now, and you don't want it to be too distinctly, there's no brush strokes visible yet. That's going to come later.
That's me.
You got to keep it wet while you're doing this. Okay. And also remember, I'm going to draw on this. I'm going to finish this with pen and ink. So I don't have to be too detailed. I can just put in the big colors. So I'm going to put in some big colors of green now. And I'm going to take the colors I've already used, which is the Prussian blue, and I'm going to mix it up here in the yellow. And you can't see that, but I just mixed what I already had. The Prussian blue with this yellow. And I'm just going to start putting that right up in here.
Oh my.
So you can see there. And this is starting to be a little more detailed. But again, right now I'm not painting leaves. I'm just painting shapes of green here.
And you're using a flat brush now, huh?
Use the same brush the whole time.
Oh.
I brush it up. But I'm changing how I'm holding it. Notice how I'm holding it? I twist it back and forth like this. So sometimes it's the flat of the brush, sometimes it's the point, the edge of the brush. And I'm going to come right back while that's still wet and get some more Prussian in there to make it look a little darker. Okay. And I'm going to do some of that same thing over on this side. No, I understand what some of you are probably grappling with now is I know where I'm going with this painting because I've painted these kinds of things before, and you don't know because you're following me. So I'm trying to explain what I'm doing, but sometimes because you don't know where I'm headed. Now, if you were to paint this painting a second time with me, you'd have a lot better understanding of what's happening. So that's kind of the liability of painting with somebody, is that you don't know where they're going. But the more you paint, the more you're going to sort of get, oh, I think I see where he's headed. I think I know where that's going to go. And that's another reason I'm trying to paint pretty traditionally, so that what I'm doing, many watercolor artists would do like I'm doing. I'm not doing some unusual techniques, I don't think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put some of this green. It's still drying a little bit, but it's not completely dry. Just to get in some of this undergrowth foliage under here. And this is something that some of you are not going to have the advantage of knowing what to do because you haven't painted it before. I know what I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm professional, but I know because I've done it before. All right. So I like the way this kind of blended in here. I like the effect so far. Now, did you notice also over here, there's white spots. You can always get darker, but you can't get lighter. So when you're painting watercolor, leave white places. The white places will give you a place to move into if you need to get more color, but it'll stay bright and light if you want to do that as well. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is I want to get one there's a really yellowish bush here. I want to kind of make that visible up here. And it's kind of on the horizon, right about up here, there's some, a bright yellow bush. I want to allow that. So I'm just putting that right up in here. I think it's pretty. I like the way it looks. Okay. Now, next thing we can do is what? What do you think is the next thing we'd want to do? Stones. Most of mine is dry here. I could put the stones in. I'm going to wait on those. What I want to do next is up here by the sky. I want to do the mountains coming down here. I'm going to do the mountains. And what I'm going to do with the mountains is I'm going to make a purplish gray. The purplish gray is going to, again, be the mountain. You can always put some dark foliage and some dark crevices on there. But a mountain, generally, and there's no mountains in here. But I know the mountains are there because I was there and I know there's peaks and it's typical. So we can put those in there and it's fine. Actually, the way this scene is composed, I'm taking a liberty to put in some things that I want to be there. I'm painting my ideal mountain scene, okay? All right, so I'm gonna show you how I do that color. I'm gonna take some burnt sienna, and I'm gonna put in some cobalt this time, cobalt blue. Now, cobalt is a bit different color. We haven't used it yet. And I'm going to take and make a nice gray with that. This Prussian, excuse me, I keep saying Prussian. Burnt sienna and cobalt make a really nice gray. But I do think that I got a little bit of yellow in there, so I'm going to try to do this again. I'm going to get it grayer here, a little more bluish gray. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use right there. And these I'm going to do dry brush. So I'm just going to take, starting over here, and paint these mountain peaks in here. I'm going to leave maybe some white spots in there because there might be some snow still on the tops of the mountains there. Can you see? Oh, I'm off.
Let's see what you're doing. Ah.
So I've got this gray going here.
Now, my cobalt and burnt sienna just looks like a very rich brown. So what am I missing?
More blue. Put
more blue in it. Okay.
More blue. And don't paint it on the paper if it looks too brown.
No, I just am looking at it on the palette and it looks okay.
Believe it or not, mountains, at least in the Rockies, I shouldn't say Rockies, the Sierras, there's very little that are brown. They're mostly grays, and that's the colors of the mountains there. I would guess probably the mountains in Canada are like that too. They're going to be grayer than they are brown. There's not as much brown in there. So I have used the same brush this whole time. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get some variation of color in here. So I'm going to come back in now and get more of the cobalt blue so that my next pass looks a little different gray. I want variation in there. And notice I'm leaving a little bit of gray at the top. I mean, white at the top of the mountains there.
Now, Dan, when you come in with the trees branches, wouldn't you be able to see some of the mountain behind that, or no?
See some of the mountain behind where?
The tree branches.
I can paint across this with my branches. You're asking? Yeah, this is still lighter than the branches are going to be. Okay, another device. Do you see what I'm doing here on this one? You maybe can't see it. I'm leaving some streaks, like some ravines of snow coming down the mountainside. And also at the bottom edge where the forest is going to come up to it, I want to have this irregular edge as well. But Gwen, your question is well taken, that I will be painting across this with some branches and some other trees. I just came back here and varied my gray again. And I just realized I don't like what happened over here. So I'm going to sop this up a little bit with a paper towel. I put in some color in there that was already drying and it didn't look right. So I just kind of blot that up a little bit, and that will look better when it dries like that. This is timing. You learn as you paint more that you can't come back into paint that's drying and paint more paint in there that's wet, because it'll do that blossoming thing like that just happened there. So be watching that, and if that happens, you've got to either be ready to sop it up or to just accept the blossom. Okay. Well, I may not do anything more to those mountains than just that, because it has enough variation in the color that with ink on top of that, I can make it interesting. All right. Now, Randall, we're going to paint the stones here, because we're going to use some of the same color that we just used on the pathway there. I mean, on the mountains. So I'm just going to put some of these this gray down here. And a principle that you want to follow is that you want to use, like I've said before, some of the same color around in your painting. So there wasn't any cobalt in the painting before, but now it's in the foreground. So in the mountains, so we have some matching elements there. Okay, and because we're going to draw on top of this with some ink, we can leave the darker areas to develop later with our pen. All right, that's about what I'm going to do for the rocks in the pathway. And the next thing I want to do is I want to paint the trees across here, but I think this mountain is too wet still, and it's going to look good. Might blend. All right, I'm kind of at a stopping point for a couple of minutes here. I'll want to take a little bit of a break and show us your paintings, or I'm going to take a swig of my iced tea that I had mixed up here.
Can you show me your rocks again? I'm kind of behind.
Oh, sorry. They're down here. Yeah, they're not. Okay, I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to actually turn it upside down so you can see better what I did. See?
Turning it upside down.
Well, I've got to get a better setup here. This is really hard.
No, we appreciate you doing it, Dan.
But this paint, I think my camera needs to go up a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah, I can see that. Now, is it just, am I just seeing the outline of where you did your rocks, your penciling in? Is that how we're getting the outline on those rocks or not? The stone?
Yeah, you can still see the pencil there, and I don't care that it's still there, because I'm going to be drawing around those with my pen, with my ink later.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any questions at this point of anything we've done? Anyone want to show us what you've got so far? How are you doing, Lisa? It looks like you're frozen. Did we lose you? Oh, there. You're lagging. It's a little bit of a lag.
No, I'm here, but I started over.
Oh.
Yeah, I started over.
Well, Lisa, this painting, I don't know if you remember.
You know me.
You paint at your own speed. I know, and you always get it done. That's the good thing. This is reminding me a little bit of the painting we did at the manor house there in Alpen, and we sat close to the gate and we painted that one. And I'm going to finish this with pen and ink like I did that one too. So there's stones and different things. It's a different subject, but it's kind of a similar style. All right, so Luann, did you?
I finished that one with pen and ink too.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones I've done. Did you want to show us yours, Luann? Oh, nice. Very nice.
A little bit of bloom here and there, but
Yeah, I just
I can
noticed.
show you
guys see-
mine.
Oh, Gwen, that looks good.
Does it?
Go up a little so we can see the bottom part. Oh, your greens are, oh, nice. It's blending nicely there. Looks good.
Okay. We'll see.
And Lisa, do you want to show us yours at all, or you started over again? I think we.
I started over. I used some paper that I had gotten from somewhere and I didn't like it.
Okay,
So
well,
I
that
went
happens.
back to my original paper.
Paper is very important. Okay, so now what we're going to do is
Paper is everything.
we're going to block in the big color. What time is it, by the way? Real?
It's 13.
Oh, we're still within our time. I think we got most of the color is by 5:30. Yeah, we can. So you guys who all is on anyone on the East Coast there? Are we all in Pacific Standard Time? I think it's 5:15 for all of us. Okay, very good. All right, well, we're gonna block in the colors of the house right now, or the log cabin. So we're gonna, let me show you how I do that. And the roof is the lightest part. So we're gonna put just a little bit of that real yellow ochreish color on there. Now, we could do, if we'd like to, we could do an aqua roof as well.
I was thinking make a blue roof.
Yeah, that kind of bluish aqua like is on the other roof. So if you look at your photograph, we could borrow the color of the other house, which in this photograph, you can see it looks kind of bluish aqua. Let's do that. It will be a little more interesting, I think, there. Because we got a lot of yellow here. Well, we got blue there. Anyway, we're going to do it that aqua blue. Okay, so for that, we need to use some of the Prussian blue, and we're gonna make it really light. We don't want it too dark because that's the lightest part, and we want it to show up there behind the branches. Okay, so my color is like this. This is what I'm using. It's kind of just the Prussian blue with a little bit of yellow in it, so it's not quite. It's a little more greenish, aquish. Okay, so I'm going to put that on here. And I'm going to go the directions of what the shingles might be. And leaving a few white spots. Now there's a little bit too much water here, so I'm going to pick up some of this. I think that's a nice color because I've used the same colors that are in the rest of the painting, but I've made it so that it looks different than the painting, the colors that are already there. And I think that's helpful. So it kind of helps it stand out. Okay, so we're going to do that. Then we're going to, the color of the cabin itself is kind of this almost a piney wood look. So I'm going to go almost straight yellow ochre, and I'm going to mix that here. So you can see this is pretty much the color I'm going to use, and I can accent it with some of the burnt sienna. I'm going to use that as the color underneath. Okay, so I'm going to just put that in here. And remember, there's bushes in front of this, so you want to keep the bottom edge ragged. You don't want it just right straight over. Okay, and then the eave up here. Be careful if you get the eave too close to the roof because you don't want the green, the roof color to blend down in there. And then the porch roof was kind of that color, but a little bit lighter. I'm gonna actually take some of that up. And this corner is probably a little bit too dark. Take some of that up. And I'm gonna put some of this color under here. And actually, I want it to be a little bit not completely clear what it all is there, because I'm going to draw on top of it, make it more interesting, but I don't want to have it too completely described with my paintbrush right now. Does that make any sense? I don't know how that makes sense, but that's in my mind here. I'm just kind of suggesting some railings and some different things going on here. And I can, okay. So that has that kind of a piney log cabin look. The chimney should be done, and this is the first time I'm actually going to change brushes. Use a small brush. This is the brush I'm going to use. This is actually a number 6 because it's just too small for me to use that big brush. It's awkward. I'm going to come back to get some of the gray. I'm just going to put the gray in here. Okay, and now the next step, and remember, I'm just thinking about getting the main colors of this picture down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in some background trees. Is that what I should do now? Almost dry. I'm going to stop for that. All right, this time I'm not going to use my square brush either. I'm going to use this brush, which is it's a number 10 round, and I'm going to paint the foliage back here behind the house and behind the trees. Okay, I'm going to mix up a big puddle of yellows blending into greens. So I've got a mixture of colors, and then I'm going to take in some of the the burnt sienna down into this end, so I get, see it goes from dark to light to brown. You see that progression there? That's what you want to have when you're painting foliage, because all those colors are going to appear in the background here. I'm going to just start right up here. Can you see what I'm doing? And I'm going to just start mixing, putting these colors up here. So this is wet into wet brush, dry brushing, but I'm going back into the colors that are there. And I'm trying to remember this tree shape here in front. This kind of little Christmas tree looking thing. So this is, all I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to actually paint any trees here. I'm just trying to put color in the background here that would suggest a forest. And I can add some tree shapes later if I want to draw it. But when you get to the tops of these trees, look how I'm going up like this. I want to paint so that it's like the tops of trees. Leaving some white spots in here. Somebody explaining something in the background there? I can't quite tell what it is. Now, when I'm painting around the cabin, I'm trying to avoid getting close to the roof because it may still be wet, and I don't want to have those colors blend. I'm also trying to think about tree shapes being vertical, not horizontal. So as I apply my colors, I'm trying to apply them in a kind of a vertical way. Be real careful around the posts from the house. You don't want to blend in there. You want those to stand out. But I'm painting the darkest part right next to those. So they're really, you see how they're starting to stand out now? This is called negative space painting. Paint right across. Keep going back to your your puddle of color and get some yellows, some green. Try to vary the shades there because the forest has all different kinds of colors in it. So you can see as I paint, I'm trying to leave white spots in there. It's really important to not paint all the whole area. You want to leave some room for other things to come in. And I'm trying to get darker down here near the horizon, just because it's a device. I want to make it look like there's underneath the trees as the forest goes back, it's going to be more shadows. But I'm also leaving some straight up and down pieces here so that it looks like it could be a branch of a trunk of a tree or something that's coming out there. And I'm going to bring some of these darker colors down into here so that it's not just totally straight line between the different areas of the painting. So I kind of start with light color and then I come in with a little bit more variation, a little darker, leaving some verticals for branches or whatever. And then come back in and get some real dark. Oh, that's a little bit dark. A little bit too dark, maybe. And over here, I'm kind of having fun. I don't know if you can see this. I'm just having some negative space, just shapes there that could be interpreted into bushes or whatever later. Okay, I put all the background forest there. And I didn't intend to have it this way, but it looks like the last thing we're going to paint on is our tree trunks. And we're going to have to wait for a second here to get that on there. And also, something that I want to do, and I don't know how much time you all have, but it's getting close to 5:30, I'm sure. But I do want to paint across the foreground here some of these darker shadow areas across the pathway, combining what I see here and here. It's too bright here, but remember, you can always go darker, but you can't go lighter. So the fact that I've left it light is still good because I can put the shadows across in the dark and it's going to look okay. All right, so I like what I have so far. Do you like what you guys have so far? Learned anything? Do you see things you could do differently, or?
I always learn something, Dan.
What's that?
Lisa.
Oh, did you say I learned something or I always learn something?
I heard her say
I
always.
always learn something.
You can't.
Yes, I always learn something.
Even if you're painting by yourself, you still learn something. And
Yes.
Don't do it again.
You didn't hear what Randall said. He learned not to do it again. Watercolor painting is what we did over there in Italy. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's, Randall, that is really a beautiful piece of work. You haven't, you've left whites in there.
All right.
Okay, come on, I'm going to show you. Okay, so Randall has done some good things here. It's got a lot of whites left in there. He hasn't painted. I think this is showing some real progress.
All right, 2 years it took you to do that.
Looks good.
All right, you guys are my best friends.
Anybody else want to show what they've got at this point here?
I can show
Here,
you.
I'll show you mine.
Okay, so I heard Lisa first. Go ahead,
See,
Lisa.
I haven't done the sky. I haven't done the
Oh,
sky
I like
because
it.
I
Nice.
didn't want it, but that's what I've got so far.
Okay,
When
Lisa,
I did my rocks.
you have, hold it up, go, Lisa, hold it up again and then go a little higher with it. I want to see a little bit more about you. Yeah, okay. You have been much more controlled than I was in putting your forest in the background, and I like that. And your stones also really suggest smaller, larger to smaller. That gives good perspective there. Nicely done. Okay, anybody else? Was
Thank you.
Gwen the next one?
Yeah, I have mine.
Okay, let's see, Gwen. Hold, now go up, up. Ooh, nice. Now go towards your face a little bit. No, I mean,
I love that.
Nicely done. Very nice. You got some
That
good
is
things.
nice. You did a good job.
Am I coming along? Do you see progress?
Okay, Luann, did you want
The
to show us
second
yours?
bill, I put the second cabin in there, so I haven't done, I had sketched that second cabin in there, so I've got to do something
Okay.
with that.
Luann, don't put it down yet. I want to talk about yours. Nice job, Luann. It's very, very, one of the things I'm looking for. Yeah, okay, there's the second cabin. Nicely done, Gwen. One of the things I'm looking for in all your paintings, folks, is that I see that you haven't just solid filled in paint, or you haven't just got one big area of the same color, but you've varied your colors, you've left whites in there, and you can work with that. It's nice, nicely done. Okay, let's
I'm
put
learning
on
lots and much.
the trunks of these trees now, and then we'll have everything filled in at least.
Now you put some of your branches across some of those trunks of the trees. I don't have any of those. Should I put some in before we put the tree trunk color in?
Those are going to be dark, and they'll go on top. They're going to.
Okay.
You can still show that. Now I left a couple down here that are lighter colored.
Yeah.
That can just be some variation, and I can also make these up here that are in the sky can be lighter as well as the ones that are in front of the clouds. I have some room left to do some variation. All right, I'm going to use this brush again to do the trees because I think it'll work for the verticality of the trees. Now I'm going to do the trees in my photograph. The trees are almost burnt sienna. They're very light. Randall's photograph, they're darker. So I'm going to paint them this color, but I can darken them to this color if I need to. Okay. So how do we make that color? We're going to make it with burnt sienna. So we're going to go over here to the burnt sienna, and we're going to make kind of a puddle of burnt sienna. And I'm going to put in a little bit of Prussian. So see how that knocks it down to, I don't know if you can see on the camera there, but it makes it more of a chocolate brown. So that's the color I'm going to use. Okay. Now, one of the things when I am teaching a class that I encourage everybody to do is use the same colors I'm doing, not because they're the best colors, but because then when I say mix these two to get this color, you won't be frustrated because you'll be able to see on your palette the same color I have. And I think I told all of you at my first class, I'm using QOR, I forget the name brand, but it's a Q something R, OR, I think, paints. But I also have in my palette, I've got some Cotman, Winsor Newton Cotman, and I've got maybe a little bit of Grumbacher, but those are the brands I usually use. Okay, so we're going to take these colors here, and we're just going to start right down here, and we're going to just paint right down from the beginning. And like I always do, we're not going to paint the whole. We're going to paint some, leaving some white in there. Can you see what I'm doing? Now, the reason that I'm leaving these streaks of vertical white in there is because I can always paint over it to make it, but it helps to make this look like, the pine trunks. And when I get down here to the bushes, I don't want to paint completely over it. I want to paint around so that it, again, looks like there's some bushes in front of this tree here. Okay. No, it's eventually, I'm going to need to have it much darker than this, but that's my first pass at that. Then I'm going to do the same thing with these trees. And the reason I use this flat brush rather than a round brush, it helps to keep the strokes very linear and very long, but it also gives me the chance to turn it sideways and get some, like that, some bigger strokes this way. Need some more color here. Now this tree is darker. I'm going to put some of the dark in here too, so it's not isolated. This darker brown I got from adding actually some of the dark green, which was Prussian blue and burnt sienna. And I just added it to the burnt sienna that I already had, and it just makes this even more chocolatey brown. Now I don't want to get my arm in this, so I'm going to be painting. I should have painted these first, but I didn't, because I don't want to go across that. Now, something I hope you're noticing that I'm painting with a variation. I'm coming back to my palette and getting some more burnt sienna and coming and getting a little bit more of the chocolate brown. So I want to have color variation on these trees. I don't want them to be just the same color all the way down. Okay, now I'm going to hold this up so you can see it in its entirety. So none of it's finished yet because I'm planning to finish it with the pen and ink drawing over it. And but I've got almost all the colors in that I want things covered up. I'm going to do a little bit now of some of the shading across the pathway. I'm going to use my number 10 brush. I'm going to use some of that same color that I just used on the branches, on the trunks. I'm going to just put some of that brown down in here.
Almost done. Yeah. Won't take long to get supper on.
I'm fine, don't worry.
Okay.
So you see how that's making it look more like a forest floor there is what I'm trying to get.
Ah.
Okay, I need to stand back and look at my painting from a distance. And I like that variation that I just put on. I think it's going to help. I probably will put a little bit more on a little bit later, but for right now, I like what that's doing. So it's past 5:30. Here's what I'm going to propose. I've got all the color in that I plan on doing on this painting. I am going to draw on it when it's all dry. This is about all I do when I do the ink drawing. I just put the big block in the big colors, and then I take and I'm going to show you, Randall, do you have that Sharpie pen?
I do.
Let me show it. I want to show it to the people. I use a Sharpie fine point, and that may seem like a really odd thing to use on a piece of art, but Sharpie permanent ink pens, the reason I use that on top of watercolor when I'm drawing is because it won't, if it gets wet, it doesn't smear. And I don't usually go, that's an Expo. That's gonna be, well, it should be. I think it's there, I see it right down there. That one that's, this right there. Oh, that's vis-a-vis. Oh,
I thought I had one.
yeah, you did. Well, anyway, you know what I'm going to propose, and this is obviously all of this is volunteer. It's totally what you want to do, but I'm going to come on tomorrow probably and draw, and I'll let you know what time. If you'd like to watch the drawing process, you're welcome to and join us. Or what I can do is I can just finish it, and you can see the finished product. But it might not be quite as interesting to see how the drawing goes, but some of you might be interested in seeing that. So before we go today, I'd like to see anyone that would like to show us, and we can critique what you've got. And if you have any questions, I'd like to answer your questions right now. And what I wanted to, oh, nice, Lisa, very nice. hold it still and let's take a look. I'm going to put your screen big so I can see yours. Okay, I'm going to see yours big. Okay, so your colors are very subtle. There's
I still haven't done the sky.
Yeah, you're going to put, well, you can do the sky later. It's true. It doesn't have to be done now. I want to see when it's done. It's going to look great.
Yeah.
So all of you, make sure you come back and show us your painting later. Okay, anyone else want to show their painting? All right, I'm going to make yours big, Luann, as well. Let me just a second. Okay, so Luann, nice, very nice. I see the blending of colors in the forest in the back. Your trees, like mine, are just the underpainting, and you're going to need to do some more. Now, if I was going to paint this all the way, I would now come with darker colors and develop the dark and light side of the tree. But I'm not going to do that with the paint. I'm going to do it with the drawing. Okay, so that's the next step we're going to do. All right, anybody else? I think I saw Gwen, you were holding yours up. Okay, Gwen, let's take a look at yours. I'm going to pin you so I can see you bigger. All right. Oh, Gwen, your houses are well drawn. They look quite convincing. Good perspective on those. Very nice. And your mountains, I like the way you've left some white streaks in there. So those are great. Your trees, nice variation in shape. And your foreground, go up a little bit so we can see yes. You've left your foreground mottled, dappled sun coming through. That looks great. One thing I might suggest is that you bring a little bit more of that green down into, so it isn't quite the clear break between the green and the yellow there in the front. That looks a little bit.
I haven't come down to do those yet. I was just working on the trees, so I didn't come back when you went back to do that foreground work. So that's something I need to do still.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to show this once again, what I was just talking about on my painting here. Notice where the greens and the browns come together. I've tried to leave the bottom edges of this so there is some break in there, but it's still the bushes. When I draw it, you're going to see it better. But we want to, now there's too much white in here, but I'm going to cover some of it up and develop some of it, but you want to, I don't want to say it too many times. You can always make it darker, but you can't get the white back. Once the white is gone, it's gone. So leave white spots, and you can put washes over them if you don't like them, and they can be good. But it helps to make your painting sparkle to have whites in there. Okay, any questions before we go?
This has been fun. Thank you. Just comment.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I always learn as I
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to probably come back with you. I'll do the drawing online tomorrow. Just a second. What's the schedule tomorrow? Are you guys going to be working on the manuscript all day tomorrow?
I'll take a look here. You do whatever.
Probably around 4 o'clock again tomorrow. I can do some drawing. It's nice just before dinner for some of you. Maybe if your husband's cooking for you, you can step right into dinner.
What reality do you live in, Dan?
Well, I cook for mine.
He loves to cook.
I go
He has
right
a good cook.
to cooking. Well, we're going to have veggie burgers tonight, so it's going to be easy. We've got everything ready to just put out on the counter. But I'll probably draw tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and you can see how that part works. And I might even do some more painting on top of it. But this is the level I get to for when I'm going to do a pen and ink on the painting. All right, fantastic. Thank you for coming, Luann, our new student today. Lisa, new today, but with us many times in the past. Gwen, our faithful one for so many times so far this year. And
it's called desperation.
And
Dan.
I will post this recorded part. It's going to be an hour and a half if you want to wade through it, but you might be able to see parts of it. All right, have a great afternoon, evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.